This is the War Room Roundtable podcast, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant businessmen and women on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on the road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their successes into your life and business. The War Room Roundtable is brought to you by your hosts, Jason Miller, CEO of Strategic Advisor Board, and Phillip Lanos, CEO of Own the Rhythm, and former podcast host for Entrepreneur and Inc. magazine. Welcome to the War Room. And we've got a mini, mine's taking a nap over there, but I love dogs, man.
This little thing was a stray, but she's a purebred. And of course I think she got beaten a lot because she used to be so scared. Now she loves me. Now now when I'm at my desk, she'll just jump right up on my leg and be like, hello, hey.
Oh, man, that says a lot, man. And, I usually go into this opening it up and in the way where we go, do you yourself, Craig, come from a family of entrepreneurs?
No. My mom was mostly stay at home, although she did at one time work at a movie theater and at a grocery store, but for the most part, my dad was a cop, former Army sergeant. And, during the Vietnam War, I was in the Army and didn't end up going to Vietnam. He ended up going to Germany instead. So he was kind of blessed in that way. He was on the plane twice to go to Vietnam, but both times they pulled him off. So that probably worked out in his favor.
Wow.
But no entrepreneurs in the family. And I don't know how I got there. I mean, I always wanted to be a musician and do music. And so really, I think entrepreneurism has been more of me not giving up on the dream to write music and be a musician. So I've had to find ways to support that. And so I wanted to go to college for music, but my mom and dad didn't have the money. So I couldn't afford to go to Berkeley or Juilliard. So I went in the Army to try to make college money, but it was only $750 a month. And so that paid my rent. And I went to a local school and paid for it myself. But I worked 4 jobs, to support myself. I worked the night audit shift at a hotel. I worked for a pizza place. I disc jockeyed, and did a club at night, but weddings, like almost every weekend they had weddings on top of it. And then I umpired baseball and officiated soccer, which most people wouldn't understand how much that pays. But, officiating a soccer game, it's an hour and it pays $100, or at the time, I think it was 70. Now it's probably 100. But I'm just saying, when I could do one game a week and make $500, for 5 hours, that as a college kid, going back 20 years, it was really good money. And, so I was always somebody I did a Sunday paper route all the way through, even past high school. I always had a Sunday morning paper route because that was another job that I could fit in that would make me, a couple $100. So you wouldn't believe the amount of work I used to put in, but it just kind of put me in that entrepreneurial headspace, and started building shortcuts to, like I call it, life hacking. There's always a different way to get there if you just think out of the box. And so I did that for a while, and then I did insurance door to door, and I ended up in a call center. And entrepreneurism kind of chose me. I was a phone agent, but I was really good. And so they were recording my calls and trying to turn it into a script. And so then I just said, well, let me write it. So I wrote it. But then when I wrote it, I took all the punctuation out of it. I used up tones and down tones with little arrows. And next thing you know, I'm a script writer. And then they wanted me to train on my scripts, and I'm a trainer. And then other call centers got wind of my skill set. And now I'm a script writer, a copywriter for scripts, getting $30,000 to $50,000 for my scripts in phone centers. And at one point I said, I'm just going to open my own call center. I might as well, right?
Yeah.
And so I did. And then we became very good. In 3 years, we grew by 7,000% year over year. And made Inc. 500's fastest growing private companies in America. We were literally number 27 on the entire list, but we were number one in the business products and services category. And that business has been around for 16 years. Over time, I never forgot about music, so I retired from my call center to write music. But then I was branding Craig Handley, and I tried to hire agencies to do it, but it was 20 grand a month, 7,500 to create content, 5,000. So I just built it in Mexico again, and I had 3 people doing Craig Handley social media, costing me about 3,500 bucks a month instead of 20. And other people started saying, "Hey, would you do that for me?" I'm like, "No, it's not a business." They offered me 5 grand. It was costing me about 3,500. And I'm like, "Well, all right, I'll try a few." A year and a half later, I got almost 100 clients, 50 employees in my marketing company. We've done 40 book launches and done bestsellers with all the books. We've done, and on the songwriting front, I do write 3 new records or 3 new songs every week. And I've built up a library. Now, it's cost me about $250,000 to build up my library, but I think I've got now 60 to 100 songs that could be considered radio worthy. And I've played them I'm a partner with Charlie Walk in helping him with one of his businesses. And we're building out a TV show that kind of combines American Idol and Songland. And I'm the one writing these records for new artists as we attempt to break new artists. And so I've got records with Ed Sheeran, who's looking at a song I wrote, and some other, big names in music. I've written for young artists that are on tour trying to break, and they're doing really well. One young girl's touring with that girl, Lala, from Nickelodeon. Every Sunday, they put 3,500 kids, and she performs, 3 of the records. She performs records I wrote for her. And so it's been fun, trying to, there's a lot going on as far as navigation goes, but I'm now an entrepreneur, a songwriter. I actually am the chief marketing officer for a company called View It, which is a TV and entertainment company putting out 5 TV shows with the likes of, the names that are starring in these shows are Christopher Walken, Jonathan Sanger owns the company, and Mars Callahan is one of the key directors in the whole process. But it's Christopher Walken and Morgan Freeman and Ellen Pompeo from Grey's Anatomy, and Robert Ayler from The Sopranos. It's big names, and so I've kind of found myself immersed in music and acting and all these other areas while I'm building this big marketing company and writing my songs, just kind of doing my own thing. So there is how long did that take? 7 minutes. That's like 20 years in 7 minutes. So.
First of all, man, nothing makes me happier than to hear someone's dreams come true and coming true. It really is something to smile at and be inspired by, just that alone, right? Just hearing the transitions. If anybody was paying attention, they'd be like, wow, and at the same time, there is a quality that not only am I observing as I'm hearing you tell the story, but also there is a quality that was thematic throughout all of that. And that is something strange, because a lot of people who try to be business owners, entrepreneurs, like you said, you were chosen, they can't seem to get over this hump. And we were just having this conversation in another episode of the left side and the right side of the brain and what it takes to be able to close and be sales and like have that comfortability there with your personality. For a creative person, someone who had that goal in mind, and then falling into not falling necessarily, but really being able to stick to your guns and build a business that would give you that. There's a quality to your personality that you somehow were able to unlock. And the reason why I'm asking this for context is that there are a lot of people who it may not be their superpower and they do delegate it. Maybe sometimes they don't delegate that business aspect of growing and selling with scripts and all those things. But everyone could stand to get better at it, myself included. What do you think it was? Was it you were so dedicated to your dream of making music that you were willing to do whatever it took to get there? Or was there something else so that you were taking it day by day and you knew that this was going to be important because this is who you are? And that allowed you to do calls and share the story that you just did, which was 20 years in 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you were lying in a hospital bed and you looked up at the EKG, what would you prefer? A flat line or the line that goes like this? And somebody told me that story, and what it meant to me was life is meant to be up and down. That's called living. If it's just high, well, that's boring, right? If it's low, you're dead, So, and so the line is there for a reason. So you have to be able to embrace the bad with the good, right? Because that's called living, right? It's being able to experience joy in the ups as well as the downs. And if you think about it, in many ways, there isn't much of a difference between trying to save a company and trying to build a company. You're going through the same steps. You're always trying to refine your model to, tweak your revenue and make sure you're employing people and the bonus plans. And if you're going through a turnaround, you're looking at all the same things. You know what I mean? And so I think for me, it was a combination of things. Number one, I was bullied as a kid. My dad was a cop and had arrested a lot of these kids' dads. So I was bullied not by one person, but there were like 11 kids waiting to throw me in the snowbank and beat me up. And so I remember, walking around through the woods. I think once I almost got kidnapped by some dark van because I was walking way out of my way, trying to just avoid all these kids that used to pick on me. And it creates a mindset where your brain has only a couple of functions. If you study neuroplasticity, they fear it, they fight it, or they want to fuck it. It's those three. And so for me, I got in the weight room when I was in high school, and I went from 115, to 185, literally between my freshman and sophomore year. I was like 115 soaking wet, and then all of a sudden I put on 70 pounds, of muscle, and nobody was picking on me anymore, and that was important. But I still had this sense of my brain had to be loved, right? So I was a little bit outspoken, probably acted out, trying to get attention. Women, when I changed schools, girls thought I was handsome. And so that, of course, was dopamine, became, I don't know if it was a problem, but I used to love dating lots of women, because I could. And it was one of those things that brought me happiness. But when I started competing in sales events, we had this thing called the Rusty Nail Award. We pounded a rusty nail into a piece of wood. They should have called it the Craig Handley Award. I mean, my ego, I had to win. I had to win so people would love me. And over the years, I've become very self-evident about that, dating women who would, maybe be a little bit toxic or a little bit abusive, because that would keep me attracted to them, because I needed to be loved. And so I was very self-aware, and I've done a lot of work. But I think over the years, the curve of really needing to be loved and providing success for others made me very successful in execution for others, but I was always afraid to charge what I was worth. And so there's a curve through transformation where I became the most valuable $100,000 a year guy at one point, then it was the most valuable 200,000 and 300,000, and finally opening my own business and being worthy of making, $1 million. And it was a curve, but it was a curve that I think I needed the journey that I had to go on to overcome all the challenges that I had. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think it wasn't just the music. I mean, the music was a big part of being loved because I was always good at it. I think my natural gift in being able to write hit songs is up there. And I think I'll prove that. I mean, obviously I don't have anything out there yet that is dominating on the charts, but I believe I will soon. And I think I'll be able to prove that I belong in a conversation with some of the great writers, and we'll see. I do believe that when I've had experts listen to my music, they compare it to some of the great writers, and so I really appreciate humbly, the impression people have of that music. But I think it's just been an interesting journey for me because I had to go through all these things, and it took me 30 years, to go from being scared all the time and feeling like I had to prove myself to now I don't care. I don't care. I mean, I know what I'm good at, and take it or leave it. And so the less I try to prove myself, the more money I make and the more relationships I build. It's really weird. I wish I'd known what I know today 20 years ago. The secret in life, the matrix, is just help others and have enough faith to know, through Social Close, we do free audits and free strategies. Anybody who wants one, go to socialclose.com and ask for an audit. it cost me $3,500 to do these audits and these strategies, but I was charging 10 grand, to sit down with people and provide this. Now I hand it to people. I feel like it's $20,000 in value. Here you go. And whether they hire me or not, I don't care. I will coach them on how not to hire me. But the reality is 50% of the people hire me, but the ones that do treat me as like I'm a secret weapon. And the ones that don't hire me and do it themselves use my blueprint to succeed. And they actually refer 2 to 3 people. So it's really weird. The people actually that don't hire me are just as valuable to me as the ones that do. So my lead funnel of giving away this value to people turns into the best thing I could ever do, because my average customer pays $3,000 to $10,000 a month for my social media marketing services. And so the reality is if I spend $3,500 as a lead gen, I'm almost closing 1 for 1 when you count the referrals. You know what I mean? So I'm like, but I'm giving away so much value. So it allows me to feel that love that my brain needs. But because I'm self-aware of what my weaknesses are, it doesn't mean I don't always want to help people and do it for free, which my team hates all the time. Like, why are you trying to help them? They're not paying us big. Well, it's a charity. You're like, Craig, but you only have this many. I tried to help so many people that in the month, and we've grown so fast, in the month of May, we forgot to send out 14 invoices. My team's like, you've got us working so hard that we forgot to send out these invoices. I'm like, yeah, but we got to help these people,
Oh my goodness.
So did I answer that question?
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting qualities to you, man. And before I go where I want to keep going, I want to open the floor to Jason, who's I know has been listening.
I love the dynamic of, when you look at the entrepreneurial journey, right? Because I don't ever want to get to the destination itself. The journey is the fun part. When you hit the destination, it's no fun anymore. Right. So, but I loved it because it's like we all have the same story. It's just a different storyline. There's just different things plugged into it, different. But when you look at entrepreneurs as a whole, or business, whatever bucket you want to put yourself in, CEO, president, whatever, right? They're all, because we just talked about this on the previous podcast, right? And it's all, you're either one or the other. You're either an employee or you're a business person, right? So, and, we go through life and we go on this journey, and you can see how a lot of people just wouldn't make that journey, right? Because they're in their comfort zone, they're going to work, they're getting their paycheck, they're happy with that. And of course that's okay, because everybody can't be a business owner, obviously, but does everybody have the capacity probably to do it. But I always find it fascinating when I can compare my own story to everybody that comes on this show. It's just written a little bit different. That's it.
Yeah, I just did a transformational program. It was a ranch in Utah that Tony Shea had invested in with another guy, Shane Scott, and Shane's a VC investor and very successful at what he does. And so, but they don't charge a lot of money to go through it, and it's a 3-day thing, and it's worth $10,000. They're charging $1,000 to go, so they don't really care as much about the money as they do about helping people. And I love that quality. But I went through this, this transformational program. When you look in everybody else's eyes and you really start to learn the people that are around you. And what I found over time is we're all the same. We're all have fears. We all have desires. We all have, the more you really study and start to get to know somebody, we're all the same. We really are. And so I love that about growth, is the more that I know, the more I realize, there's a reason that I'm humble. There's a reason that I help people who haven't maybe made it yet. But, those people will probably make it. I believe in those people, And so I don't want to treat anybody differently than I would treat, the president of the United States, or, we're all the same. We are. So I love that about humans, that when you really get to know people, we're the same.
And now the name of your company, Listen Trust, makes a lot more sense to me. after having heard you speak and share your story, and how the value prop is literally thrown in to the name of the company. And knowing what I know about songwriting, coming back to the hook as often as you can, right? Like I'm starting to see now how that very persona and that experience as a musician, and keeping to the rhythm, listening to people, allowing the harmony to take place, filling in the beats I see how you truly embody that and found a way to tap that into business. And go ahead.
Songwriting's been interesting because as a copywriter writing phone scripts, there were rules, right? There's a process to everything. So I, as somebody who looks at life like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, I look at, or Tom Brady, I want to do my homework before I dive in. So I did a project for Berklee College of Music where I helped market their hit songs deconstructed class and asked for access to the videos. And I went through, and then from there, I went through all these videos. Then I went through and studied every song of the year from 1960 on. And I wrote down all of the qualities that every single record had and created a blueprint to write hit songs. It's not that hard. There's basically 5 things that have to be in every single song to write a hit song. Now, yes, melody, lyrics, all those things are important, but the qualities are you've got to have contrast in every 4 to 8 bars, meaning if you're feeling down, you got to get high. Now, there's a reason. There's a psychological pull in splitting the brain in two by using what's up is down, what's black is white. And so that's something that has to be in your music, because there's only 5% of new records that make it out onto the radio today. It's because there's so much history with music, and it's only 5% of new records are going to make it through. So you have to be the best if you're going to bring something through. It's more competitive than the NFL, Major League Baseball, whatever. And so you've got to have contrast in order to grab the psychological element in the record. Emotional visuals. If you don't put enough emotional visuals into a record, people can't see the movie of what your song is trying to say. And so it's never somebody's wearing pants, because that's not a strong enough visual. They've got to be wearing green corduroys or white painter's pants or neon buttons on a white dress shirt. So you've got to put emotional visuals so you can see that song as you listen to the lyrics that are full of contrast. And then the third thing is it's got to be conversational. So many songwriters write to rhyme. And so if you and I had a conversation like this, or sitting on your front porch drinking lemonade, if you read the lyrics out to most amateur songwriters, you couldn't read the lyrics. Like, it wouldn't be something you would ever say to somebody. But they did it because it rhymed. Moon rhymes with spoon. So I saw her reflection in the spoon by the light of the moon, and it was beautiful in the month of June. Well, the roses were in bloom. And they just think, hey, look what I just wrote. This is amazing. It's an amazing song. I'm like, would you ever sit on the front porch and say, Phillip, I met this girl. I was eating my sorbet and I licked the spoon. And when I looked, the moon happened to catch it. And I saw this girl in the reflection of the spoon. It was June. I don't know if the month matters, but I met her in June. And damn, the roses were blooming. It was kind of cool. You'd be like, can I bring you to the hospital? It's not a conversation. And so as I learned what the hit song rule book was, I've continued to add elements to it. For example, you've got to grab attention with a lyric or a beat or part of the production within 8 seconds. Guns N' Roses, that song within 3 seconds. Most hit songs, within 3 to 5 seconds. So you have 8 seconds to grab attention with the lyric or the production. You've got to have something in every song that 20,000 people can sing back. So a lot of times I'll write a record, then I'll go back in and I'll add oohs and ahs. 3rd grade level, whoa, there it is. There, got it. 20. Now I got a hit song. Without that, I've got a record, but it probably won't go anywhere. So I started adding elements to it, and I just did what we all do as entrepreneurs: is we write a process down and a rule book down, and then I follow the rule book. No big deal. Now you got to have skill on top of it, but it's like copywriting. You can't write a letter if your first line doesn't get into the second.
Yeah, man. No,
Fun stuff, right?
I love it. I originally had in mind I went over and looked at your LinkedIn, and it just looked like you've lived your life, and then I hear your story and how much work you did and how, entrepreneurship chose you and your dream for music. And yet you've also just lived. Like, it seems like you've made a lot of time to actually experience life. And right now,
Yeah,
more
I
than
make I
ever.
make a list. I redo my list every year, and I want to dive with great white sharks. Let's go to Africa off the coast of Seal Island. I want to snowmobile on a live volcano. Let's go to Iceland and do that. I want to dive in the Sulphur Ravine, which is one of the top 10 dive sites in the world. And I've got all 10 of them, of course, but I want to knock off all 10 of these. And one of them was the Sulphur Ravine in Iceland. And, I wanted to climb the glaciers. I wanted to jump out of an airplane. So I did that. I jumped out of an airplane from 32,000 feet. I was the 85th civilian in the world to jump from that high. It's called a halo dive. And you got to have balls of steel to do it. But when you get out to the plane, you look out to the plane and you open the door and you're hanging in the doorway, but you see the curvature of the earth. You're up so high. And you've got oxygen because you can't breathe that high, obviously. And it's so cold, but you don't feel it because your adrenaline's just coursing. And as you jump out of the plane, you are Superman, at least for 5 minutes, It's about a 7-minute free fall. After you pull, it's another 3 or 4 minutes down. But you're, and the oxygen just goes right through you while you're dropping. You don't need to breathe because it's just flowing right through your body. It's so many amazing experiences. I've done a lot of things. The Baja 500. I've been to Africa, a few times to see the animals. And I've been to the World Cup semifinals and finals for soccer. And yeah, I've tried to make sure everything, there's a lot that we should do on this planet, and there's so much to love and enjoy. And so I got to plug the joy in, man. I got to plug if there's an adventure, I usually don't hesitate to say, yeah, let's do it. And funny story, I was on Mosquito Island with Richard Branson and all these people were cliff jumping, and I was scared. I went to the edge and I couldn't jump, but I regretted that so much that it became a powerful lesson. And from that day forward, I went first. And I put myself in some awkward spots. I did a cliff jump off Costa Rica, and I missed the rocks by, mere inches because I needed to be first, and I didn't know which way the path was. So I was kind of figuring out in the air, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go first. Life is for living. And I think that everybody should say, I F the F-bomb there, but everybody say screw it once in a while, just go for it.
No, man. And I want to let Jason cover that because I see he's got a lot of things. I just want to, the reason why I'm asking that is because I've seen that you lived. And I think that there is a quality that combines what had happened with how you were chosen by entrepreneurship when you had this other dream in mind and you kept developing, and you fell into copywriting and the call center and this and that. And the same thing goes with when you made your list of what you want to do. There's almost like this dedication, this commitment, this humble commitment, or like you said earlier, maybe not so humble in the beginning, but there's this commitment to making sure what you set out to do was going to be done. And I'm just wondering, is there anything that stands out to you about why you're able to do that?
I think that there's an energy in the world, and I think that it takes time to learn how to ride the energy, like surf it, go in the flow. Some people might call it flow. There's certainly an energy, and it's weird. I wrote down I wanted to meet all the living Beatles. What are the chances that's going to happen, right? I'm a guy from Maine. But yet I did a project for the David Lynch Foundation that, unbeknownst to me, raised about $100 million. Oops. I had no idea until David introduced me to Ringo as one of the top supporters of the David Lynch Foundation at Ringo's birthday party, where I met Joe Walsh and Steve Lukather. And just these amazing, the guy from Toto and Ben Folds, and just all these amazing, Jim Carrey, I sat next to in the front row. I sang with a little help from my friends with Ringo. And David introduced me. I'm like, I did what? What did I do? I had no idea. But then I went to Paul McCartney's Music Cares event. Not only did I meet Paul, I met George Harrison's wife at Ringo's birthday party. I met Paul McCartney at his event while I was talking to Richard Branson. And then I met Yoko Ono, who was sitting next to Richard and his wife, Joan. And I met Paul's son, Chris. And I'm like, you put this stuff out to the universe and you don't expect it to happen. But the universe maybe there's aliens. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't happen unless I write it down. Like I wrote a record called What If God Is Deaf? And I don't just mean God. I mean, whatever the energy is. I think you have to put forth the effort to show the universe what you want, whether you write it down or go after these things. But I do believe there is some sort of energy that helps drive it. So, for me, I think it's that energy of learning that you should go where you fear the most, because we are all the same, right? So, and 95% of this planet is full of fear. People are afraid to, if I want to talk to Elon Musk, I'll go on LinkedIn and send him a damn message. I'm not afraid of Elon Musk. I don't give a shit. If I want to meet Richard Branson, well, this is how I met Richard. I saw what his security was wearing. I went to the big install store and bought the same outfit. And I pretended like I was security and walked backstage and handed him my business card with $20 wrapped around it. And I said, this is the first 20 we're going to make together. And all right, brilliant. He put it in his pocket, gave me his email address. I ended up on Necker 2 years later, and I told him about that event. He goes, oh, I remember. I said, I was surprised you took my 20. He goes, first lesson for you on Necker Island. He goes, let me tell you your first lesson. You don't get to be a billionaire unless you take people's money. He's a hoot. He's a riot. I was like, that's so funny. He goes, you could have handed me 20,000, 200,000, 2 million. He goes, it was going in my pocket. He goes, that's why I'm a billionaire. I'm like, okay, good enough.
Man,
So,
Jason, come on. Come on in, Jason.
There's so many there's so many pathways this conversation could go down, right? But I kind of want to go back to, the bucket list type of thing, right? And because if you look traditionally, what are we taught? We're taught, we grow up, go to school, go to college, get a job, work until you die, and maybe you'll give your kid some of the money, right? So that's pretty freaking depressing, right? Actually, when you think about it, it's really depressing. Why not focus on, doing what you want to do in the benefit and service to others that then supplies the dream that you want to get to, right? Because I do believe in dreams. Dreams are real. We should all, if we could all just get back to being a kid, right? Go back in that mindset of being a kid. Because I look at my kids, they're young, 3 and 6, and they just don't give a shit. There's just this yeah, whatever, I'm gonna go ahead and fall off this cliff right now, but it's okay.
If you want to experience joy, go watch kids play baseball or t-ball.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who was describing his son playing t-ball. He goes, it was kind of fun to watch. He goes, first of all, he hit the ball, and then he's like, oh my God, I hit it, look. But he's not running to first yet. He's like, hey, everybody, look, I hit the ball, right? And then he runs, and then, and then he doesn't stop running. He goes past first, into second, into third, and then they tag him out halfway between second and third. and the kid will just say, oh, okay, well, I'm out. And they'll just turn around and they'll start playing defense. He doesn't care that he's on the other team. He's like, I'm going to hang out with these guys now. And these kids that are playing these games, they don't know. All they know is joy. And I want to be that person who remembers all of my life, what that joy feels like. I want to live in that joy no matter what I'm doing, and for me, it's helping others. Marketing is a strength of mine. I love being creative, so I love writing music. And so I just, I love doing the things that I do and try to take time out to experience joy through all of it. I can be anywhere when I work. So.
Yeah, man. This is just a classic example of why having a show like this is so important. One that allows for this free flow of conversation with the intent to leave behind stuff. And I usually ask oh, what would you say to the younger version of yourself, for example, just before you got into the call center, when you were trying to figure out what to do? What would you say to yourself knowing what you know now?
Yeah, it's my favorite advice to give to young people. When I was younger, a lot of people didn't believe in me, right? But I chose early on in life to believe in everybody. I made that decision because if you're with the right people, if you're with 10 people, you don't know which one of those people is going to be the millionaire in your group. But there's a good chance if there's people that have dreams and are trying to build big businesses that one of those people will maybe make it. And so I believed in people early on. 20 years ago, I was building my Rolodex. I was networking and I was trying to support others and believe in their dreams, even if I thought it was stupid, because nobody believed in me. And as a result, I think in my cell phone today, I've got 600 to 800 millionaires, at least 20 or so billionaires. But guess who they were when I met them? Nobody. They were nobodies, but they had a dream. And so I chose, and I tell my kid, my kid's like, one of them's 23 or 24. I'm like, if you want to play video games, then play video games, but just do it with a passion that people can see your passion, and then build a network around it, and play games with other people and build that network of influencers. Because guess what? If you know these people when they're nobodies, they're going to trust you when there's somebody, and they're going to bring you along for the ride. Because there's so many people that don't want to latch onto their coattails after they're somebody. You don't have an opportunity anymore to make those relationships work when they're already a big deal. Not often. You can still sometimes do that, but you've really got to show some sincere authenticity to create in-depth relationships. And so I love working with young songwriters and young artists and young musicians. And I don't know which ones are going to make it, but I want to believe in all of them as if they will. And guess what? The next Ariana Grande is already a friend. I already have her cell phone number, and I'm in this business for the long haul. So I know it only takes 3 to 5 years to start to really know a circle. So if you're young, I'm older, I don't have the same opportunities a 20-year-old has. But think about it. If you've got 30 years to create relationships and create circles, start now and believe in everybody. And then by the time you're 50, you're going to have a network of 600 to 800 millionaires and another 20 billionaires in your cell phone that you can call because they're your friends. They trust you because you believed in them when they were absolutely nothing. You're one of the few people that actually gave them time when they were just dreaming. And so for a young person, that's my advice is don't be a dick and believe in everybody around you and try to support them. You're nobody with your, I remember my first year I made $100,000. I bought a $3,000 pair of shoes. I bought an expensive belt, and I bought the $6,000 Oyster Perpetual Rolex. And I needed an NDA to have a conversation. I was just such a jerk, because I thought I was finally somebody, but you're not. You're nobody, and you'll never be anybody. Your whole life should be, how do you develop a journey to become nobody?
That's pretty deep, man.
Hold on. That's the name of the episode, man.
That is.
Woo. Craig, you're on fire, man. That's a hit single right there.
That's my goal in life, my man, is to just grow up and be nobody, and to help others.
I need to turn on Spotify one day and just hear Journey to No One. I need to hear you just your record out there, because I
just actually wrote a record like that, which is kind of funny. Yeah, it's called Let Me Unravel You. It's called Unravel You. And so the concept though is, it's we don't know what we don't know, and the only way out is through. And so it is basically about the journey to nobody. So it's but it's written in the form of a song. So just actually got a copy of it last night. So.
Man, I really dig talking to you, man. And I want to be respectful of everyone's time here. So we're going to roll into the big finale if no one has any objections here.
Roll it.
Whatever you want, wherever you want to go. I'm game. I'm excited. I'm excited to experience the journey together.
Yeah, man. So here it is. If you could have invited anybody, your pick of the litter, I'm talking any time or place in the world, dead or alive, to have sat here and listened to the journey and the insights and just overall the unraveling, as you say, that has taken place in this conversation, who would you choose and why?
There's a lot of people that have definitely been of great benefit to me in my life that have been angels along the way. But I think my aunt Pam, might be the most significant person in my life. She was somebody who was in an abusive relationship with an alcoholic and got out of it, and was brave enough to leave that relationship. She didn't have anything. She was getting state substance, every month, getting help from the state, but she did work. at a senior center, helping people there. But she was always the most happiest, positive person that I've ever known or met. She was always just with a big smile, big grin, always whistling, always looking for the silver in the gray clouds. I don't think, I ever saw her unhappy. And I'm sure it was there, but I don't think I ever saw it. Every time she passed away from it, they attempted a 7-way heart bypass, which I think she was probably 52 or something around there, but obviously it didn't go so well. But I've written songs, about losing my relationship with her and her passing away. And she was such a big influence as far as being able to see the light through the darkness, So it'd be my aunt. I think that there's a lot of people, you don't want to leave anybody out, but I think if you only had a choice between one, it would have to be her.
I mean, just goes to show, man, the one thing I've learned about you is that you're not worried about yourself. You're here to wonder how others are doing and how you can be of service. And it really comes through, man, even with just the way you make your decisions on who to choose for the grand finale, or just throughout the whole journey, this focus of like really pay attention to who's around you and put yourself around good people and believe in them. And just, it seems like, oh, if someone told you that in passing, you'd be like, yeah, sure. But no, really, look at the way that's been able to unfold things. Like, I'm fortunate to be able to do this show because I had a similar conversation with Jason. He's like, look, man, I really believe in you. I was like, really? It's like, yeah, man. And I was working somewhere else that, entrepreneur or whatever. But no, it really goes to show you what's possible when people believe in you. And I love that message. I really do. So those are my closing thoughts on it. I'm so grateful that we had this conversation.
Yeah, I had another friend of mine pass away recently, and I turned it into a record called One More Angel. And the idea is that, they say that memories fade with time, but the reality is, if you believe in energy and you believe in the universe, and have faith in the world, then somebody passing away isn't necessarily somebody going away. It just means you got one more angel in your corner to support you on your own journey. And life is pretty short. It's like, we're all like grains of sand on the beach. The wind blows and that's the life, man. It's over. So we got to do what we can to enjoy every minute of it, and I still have my moments where I'm not all the way there, but it's practice. You got to practice being happy. Give yourself permission to be happy. It's okay. So.
Jason, closing thoughts?
It's a great way to end it. Give yourself permission to be happy. I would just say, gosh, thanks for being here. We have small amount of time every week, 168 hours, whatever it is every week. And you took the time to be here and spend some of it with us. And that means something, right? So that means something. And, I hope people really caught all the underlying things in this conversation, because there was a lot of them. There was a lot of things in this conversation to be grabbed and latched onto and implemented into your own life, because these are the conversations that nobody's having, and we're lucky to be having them. And we're lucky to be spending time with people like you that have had such a great journey and have done so many things in your life and been exposed to so many things in your life, and you're able to share that. And that's truly very special. And thank you for letting us be a part of that journey with you.
Yeah. And I always think of 100 other things I'd love to share, but I know we only have a lot of time. I just to help people, I just think of things. So anyway.
No, man, you're awesome, and thank you. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and if anybody ever look, I'm very humble. I don't think of myself as a big old diva. So if anybody wants to reach out, I'm Craig Handley on Instagram. I'm Craig Handley on Facebook. I'm not like I'm hiding out, and I do respond. I mean, if somebody connected on LinkedIn or connected on Instagram, I do have a team, but for the most part, I'm the one who's actively responding if someone asks me for help. And I've gotten on phone calls with random strangers, every week. I don't mind. I don't care. because again, I think we're all the same. So,
Man, just awesome. Thank you, Craig. It's been a pleasure.
yeah, good. I hope everybody got some value out of it.
Cheers, my friend.
Thanks for listening to the War Room Roundtable with your hosts, Jason Miller and Phillip Lanos. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and always remember, if you can dream it and believe it, then you can go achieve it. We'll see you in the next episode.